The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Did any one of them admit to killing Kirk?
Not that I know of, sir, no.
Who did?
My father.
Once you leave a criminal family, you watch your back all the time.
Have you consulted with your attorney and reached a decision on whether you wish to testify in your own defense or not?
I did consult with my attorney.
Have you made that decision?
I have.
And what is that decision?
I do not want to testify.
Closing arguments begin this morning in the plotting parents' murder trial. So did testimony from Jeffrey Spence's daughters help decide his fate? Also, the man charged in the assassination of Charlie Kirk is due in court today. So could public outcry affect the case against him? Plus, we're shining a spotlight on a brand new Hulu docuseries and a case that we've talked about here on Opening Statements, the mysterious death of Ellen Greenberg. So will the newly found publicity help answer lingering questions in this case? And the Amish woman accused of drowning her 4-year-old son, she is set to face a judge today. And she's also requesting bond. So will she get it? We'll talk about it. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you. I hope you had a great weekend. This is Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We have a great show planned for you to get your week started. So we'll start it off as we always do by having you grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. You can't tell me she wasn't murdered. You can't tell me Ellen Greenberg wasn't murdered. The 27-year-old teacher was stabbed to death in the apartment that she shared with her fiance in Philadelphia. This happened back in 2011. Ellen Greenberg suffered 20 stab wounds, and half of them were to the back of her head and the back of her neck. Let that sink in. The other half were to her chest. And it was her fiance, Sam Goldberg, who told the 911 dispatcher that he discovered Ellen bleeding with that knife sticking out of her chest. He also told the dispatcher that she either stabbed herself or fell on the knife. 20 stab wounds. Now, initially, Ellen Greenberg's manner of death was ruled to be a homicide, and then it was suddenly changed without any explanation to suicide. Apparently, this was based on some information that her fiance provided about the apartment supposedly being latched from the inside. Now, at autopsy, the forensic pathologist noted multiple bruises in different places on Ellen Greenberg's body. And these bruises were in various stages of healing. So that raises the question, had she undergone beatings prior to being stabbed? If so, who would beat her repeatedly? Was she trapped in a cycle of domestic violence? These are the questions that I have as a former prosecutor. Those questions, plus how in the world does somebody stab themselves in the back of their own head and the back of their own neck? Give me a break. Ellen Greenberg's parents are still fighting for justice for their daughter, and I sure hope that they get it. This case stinks to high heaven. And I sure hope the Greenbergs get answers and accountability very soon. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Would it be difficult to find the body that was thrown in the water?
Absolutely would. A body of that size. We only recover in the adults maybe 60%.
Would it be difficult to find a firearm that was thrown in that water?
Extremely.
Do you think it's likely you'd find a firearm thrown in that water?
It would be extremely difficult.
All right, in Tennessee, we've got the baby in the river murder trial resuming later on this morning. Defendant Brandon Isabel. This guy's accused of shooting his girlfriend and then tossing their 2-day-old baby into a nearby river. Testimony in that one is set to begin this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In Ohio, we've got Ruth Miller due in court. She's got a bond hearing. She's the Amish mother accused in the deaths of her 4-year-old son and her husband. The judge is set to take the bench at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And in Mississippi, we've got closing arguments on deck in the plotting parents murder trial. Jury soon to decide the fate of defendant Jeffrey Spence. Court's going to resume at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Right now, let's go to your top story, the plotting parents murder trial. Friday, if you were watching, defendant Jeffrey Spence decided not to take the stand, and no other witnesses were called by his defense team. The state's star witnesses were his daughters, Caitlin and Carolyn. They both testified to their father's alleged criminal behavior. And on cross, it was Carolyn who compared her parents to another corrupt duo.
The animosity that you have exhibited since you got into this room this morning all stems from the building of that modular home and disagreements over that.
No, sir. My uncomfortableness with having to be in this courtroom is because that man over there is not even handcuffed. And you don't know what it's like to move almost every year of your life and still get text messages from Karen, your mother, saying, hey, how's Texas? Or how's that new baby granddaughter? I would not communicate back with her. It's not like I was communicating back. She was letting me know, we know where you are. We know your kids.
How do you know your mother wasn't just expressing genuine affection for you?
Because if she had genuine affection for me, sir, she would have stopped this years ago. She would have stopped this years ago. She would have said, enough is enough. If I can't change that man, I'm going to leave that man. But she's part of it. So how are you going to leave someone when you're their partner? You're their Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, there it is. Oh boy, she really didn't pull any punches, did she? That daughter, Carolyn, wow. Let's bring in our legal analyst guests and see what they think these daughters did for the case. With me this morning, Mario Gallucci and Rick Grundy. Great to see you, gentlemen. All right, Mario, let me begin with you. Oh my, let's start with daughter Carolyn that we just saw there. What'd you think?
Well, let's just say she's got some animosity towards her mother and father. I mean, it stems way back to, I believe, when they lived together in a home, and there were issues back then. I mean, she hasn't spoken to them in years. Her animosity towards her father was incredible. I mean, her testimony was very, very damaging, I believe. She went out of her way to basically say that her father is just pure evil, and her mother just agrees to go along with him. She compared them to Bonnie and Clyde. They are a criminal tag team, the two of them. That's what she made it out to be.
Yeah, she sure did, Mario. She let everybody know how she feels. Let's look at another clip of Carolyn. And Rick, I'll come to you on the other side. Here we go.
I saw an anger and a violence in his eyes I had never seen before. In the way he was speaking to Gio, and I saw how angry he was, and that was when he said, I'm done, I'm out. Basically, this mess is yours.
And after that, did y'all install video surveillance around your property?
Yes, we put up cameras. At that point, there was too much animosity. There was too much that was being done behind our backs that at that point we weren't feeling safe.
Rick Grundy, I want to ask you about Miss Carolyn here, and then we'll get to Caitlin in a second. So your thoughts on Carolyn. Do you think that she tipped the scales here against Dad for the jurors?
Can you say Ron Adelson? I think it was Ron, right?
Yeah, the good brother, yeah. Rob.
Rob, okay. I apologize.
Okay.
So these are individuals who have an intimacy with the witness that the jury's never going to have. So their impact is great. And I think the interesting point that you guys just pointed out was she didn't just answer the difficult questions in the minimum way that she could that were incriminating on him. She went the extra mile. She threw a little frosting on that cake every opportunity she had. And again, she's not in a position of the other daughter who's got beyond a sweetheart deal, which I'm sure is 90% of the closing that we're going to hear from the defense. This is all from a lifetime, as she said, with this individual. And the defense attorney, who I think has done an overall good job with the case, appreciating where his strengths are and hammering home on those, really made a misstep when he opened that door for her to get into the Bonnie and Clyde diatribe. And again, that emotion was as real gets. Very quickly, I had a case once where their two brothers were involved. They owned a large florist shop with whole greenhouses and everything. One of the brothers was suspected in the homicide of his wife. There were two guns. One was missing. The brother took a week to turn down this furnace that runs the greenhouses. It takes a whole week to cool it down, empty it out, and he did it to look for the other gun. And that testimony had tremendous impact on the jury because the brother, in doing that, said, I think he did it. They're getting the same thing here.
Sure. Rick, thank you. Mario, I want to go to you on Caitlin. So Caitlin's the daughter who's a co-defendant and cooperating with the prosecution here. She's involved with the guy, has a child with the victim, with Kirby Carpenter. And so I want to play a clip of Caitlin, and we'll talk about her impact on the jury on the other side.
Who helped you put Kirby's body where Kirby's body was, quote, found?
Can you say that again, sir? I did not hear you.
Helped you put Kirby's body where Kirby was, quote, found?
I did not move Kirby's body from where I found it.
Did either one of them have a key to your home?
No, sir.
Did any one of them admit to killing Kirby?
Not that I know of, sir, no.
Who did?
My father.
You know, Mario, Caitlin to me is kind of like the lamb in the pig pen. You know, she claims to not have known anything about the dope dealing and the guns out of the house, and claims to really not have been involved in this plot to rob and kill, you know, her man. But, you know, she's there, but she's not there. What do you think the jurors think of this lady?
So when you take her testimony with her sister Carolyn's testimony, Caitlin is testifying under an agreement. So she went as far as she can do to obey the agreement she has with the prosecution without actually going as far as her sister Carolyn did in this case. She defended her father somewhat. She did discuss the fact that her husband was a drug dealer. But then on the other side, she said, but he was a real good businessman. So did that mean he was a very good businessman at drug dealing, or in addition to dealing drugs, he was also a businessman? So, I mean, the defense went after her credibility. I thought they did a really good job attacking her credibility. But I don't know if they're going to overcome Carolyn. I mean, Carolyn's emotions were raw, real. And like Rick just said, they should have never opened the door to allow her to get in that Bonnie and Clyde comparison. So I think that Caitlin's testimony was not as strong as Carolyn's, but I think Carolyn is the tipping edge here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Mario. Yeah, Carolyn, I think, won the day for the prosecutors. Caitlin, she's a mess. She better walk the straight line from here on out in life and get herself some better company to keep. Mario Gallucci, Rick Grundy, I'm so glad we have you gentlemen for this hour. Stand by, please. Friends at home, go get some more coffee. We got a great show coming up. Here's what's ahead.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
We've got the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk in court today. We're talking about the public outcry. Plus, a new documentary could be shedding light on the case of the death of Ellen Greenberg. If you haven't heard about this case, very soon you will. This is one we've been talking about for some time on Court TV. And now a brand new Hulu documentary drops today. We'll spotlight it.
The Court TV podcast will return.
More than anything, we are going to catch this person. Last thing I will just say is we've been working with our attorneys, getting everything that we need, affidavits ready, so that we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen here in the state of Utah.
Let's talk about what's trending in true crime. Defendant Tyler Robinson, the man accused of murdering conservative activist Charlie Kirk, is due in court in Utah today. The hearing was supposed to be an in-person hearing, but was changed to a virtual one over the weekend. And Robinson will be appearing from the Utah County Jail instead of from the courtroom. Now, this is essentially a status hearing on the case. Utah has a hearing where the parties meet to determine whether a defendant wants to have a preliminary hearing. Usually after the arraignment in most states, you go right to the prelim, and on that date, you can choose to waive it and not have one. But Utah has a hearing to plan for that hearing if a defendant wants one. So that's expected to be addressed today. Also, the formalization of defense counsel and making sure that there's an open line of communication between the defense and the prosecution. That's another thing the judge is expected to take up. Robinson, of course, is accused of shooting Kirk at that rally at a university in Utah. And he's been behind bars in a special housing unit at the Utah County Jail ever since. This morning, we're asking our power panel, will public outcry affect any of these pretrial matters? And also, we want to talk about the reason that this was changed from an in-person hearing to a virtual hearing. So let's tackle those things. Let's bring back in Mario Gallucci and welcome in retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. Great to talk to you both on this. So let's start with the public outcry. We know a lot of people talking about this case. Tom Smith, let me start with you. You've worked a lot of cases. When you're working one, does the court of public opinion have any bearing on it?
Well, unfortunately, it does. It shouldn't, as we all know, but it does. And in this case, it's going to play a tremendous role in this because of what it involves and who it involves and the circumstances of it. And you want to make sure everything is done the right way. And the relationship between the detectives and agents and the DA's office is pure, and they're getting all the information possible to make sure that there isn't that leaning towards taking care of the public opinion other than what's going on in the courtroom.
Mario, tell me, when you heard that this hearing was changed, why do you think, your best educated guess on why that may have been done from making it an in-person hearing to a virtual hearing?
So I would assume that the publicity surrounding this case is so vast that it would just be so much easier to do this virtually. I mean, it's a very simple hearing. So to have him brought over to the courthouse, to march him in front of people, to get him in and out, would be a media circus. And why would you want to do that if you could avoid it? Especially in a case which we're discussing, you know, public outcry. If a judge could limit the amount of public exposure to the case, it would be very helpful to everybody in the matter, especially to this young man who's charged with this crime.
Right, right. Let's talk about something else. Tyler Robinson's attorney. This attorney, her name is Kathy Nestor. She's familiar to us courties at Court TV. Let's take a look.
I also took a deep dive into the Sixth Amendment case law, and it is clear that had any judicial proceedings happened as of that date, we would be in a different posture.
Okay, so that was a clip from, you guessed it, one of Corey Richin's pretrial hearings. That is where we've seen attorney Kathy Nestor before. She is one of the attorneys representing the Utah mother who's accused of killing her husband and then writing a grief book about it. And Nestor is now being court appointed as counsel for defendant Tyler Robinson. Now, she is not with the Utah Public Defender's Office. They had a conflict of interest, could not take the case, so the court can appoint outside defense counsel. So that is what has happened here. She's going to be on two of the biggest cases that our Court TV viewers are no doubt watching. So let's talk about how she might impact this case for Tyler Robinson. She is a very seasoned attorney, practiced there in Utah a long time. Mario, what do you think her impact may be here?
So she's very bright and she knows the law. As you see, the argument she was just making, the Sixth Amendment argument, is a very good argument. And she brings to the courtroom her ability to argue educated things that will be better for the defense in this case. You know, when you have certain attorneys that know the law and are able to argue the law, judges are influenced by that. You know, some of us are very good in a courtroom because we can move around and we can ask questions. And then you have those that are very bright. And not saying I'm not bright, but I'm just saying that she brings to that courtroom a very, very, very good education, and she'll do very well here. This is the type of case you want her on.
Yes, you're the perfect combo, Mario. You are bright and you're so much fun to watch. You're so dynamic in the courtroom. Give me bright and dynamic all day long. That is you, Mario Gallucci. I want to talk a little bit more about the case investigation while we have you here, Detective Tom Smith, because I think a lot of our viewers are wondering, is it done? Is this guy going to be the only defendant here? Could there possibly be others who were involved in this assassination? What are your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, the investigation doesn't stop. Even when the court proceedings begin, nothing stops with the investigation. So they're going to continue to look at every aspect of it. And some of it takes some time, with especially the digital part and interviewing the number of people that they're probably going to have to involving this case. And it's going to lay out. And, you know, tips come in all the time. There might not be a tip that comes in for another couple of weeks of someone knowing something that will lead investigators to possibly somebody else. So the investigation is always going to continue, even with the court proceedings started.
Right. Tom, what do you think? What is your opinion? And granted, we know you don't have access to the case files, but you have, of course, been researching this, following every major development. Do you think there are more arrests coming?
I don't think so, but then again, I'm not privy to the case folder and what investigators know and who they're talking to. But it just seems that it might have been out there already, another person of interest or another lead that the FBI would have came up with. But again, like I said, anything can come in. It might not be something that's in the case folder. It might not be something that they're aware of yet. And a tip comes in later on of someone that maybe their conscience gets to them and they make a phone call about something else.
Yeah, well, Detective, thank you. Great points. Mario, let me ask you about the fact that we have a capital case here against this guy. I'm curious if you think we'll see a resolution in this one, or if you think it's going to progress all the way to the point of trial.
So, I mean, it's a death penalty case. So the only way you're going to get a resolution in this case is if they offer him something other than the death penalty, and he wants to take that. I mean, the young man recognizes what he did was wrong, and if he doesn't want to, get the death penalty, his attorney should start, pitching, he'll serve life in jail for, a life sentence. I mean, that's the only way this case gets resolved, is if they take the death penalty off the table. And they may do that just to spare, public outcry, to spare the witnesses, to spare the widow in this case. They may actually do that. Public outcry, though, is for the death penalty, and it's up to the prosecution to do what they think is best and to not capitulate to the public outcry. If they think it's best to the widow and the children in this case that he serve a life sentence and they take the death penalty off the table, then I believe we'll probably see a resolution.
Yeah, great points, Mario. And just a follow-up for you, please. Practically speaking, doing the defense work that you do, is now too early to have that conversation if this defendant is so inclined to say, I want to enter a plea?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't have any evidence. I mean, as a defense attorney, I want to see every single piece of evidence, so this way I have enough ammunition in my bag to go back to them and say, look, you got this, but it's maybe not as powerful as you think it is. And without having all of that information, you can't possibly go to a prosecutor and ask for a resolution to the case. I always wait until I have everything, and I know my client. What's my client's background? I probably just met this man. What's his background? Does he have him evaluated by a doctor? See what's going on. And then after you have all the information is the only time you would go back and speak to a prosecutor about a possible resolution.
A great insight from you both. He's going to be in court today, appearing virtually. We'll follow every development. I'll bring it to you live on Court TV. Mario Gallucci, Tom Smith, thank you both kindly. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're talking about the mystery surrounding the death of Ellen Greenberg. Her death was ruled a suicide despite her suffering 20 stab wounds, half of them to the back of her head and the back of her neck. A brand new docuseries on Hulu is generating some new interest in the case. Plus, accused of killing her own son, an Amish mother is looking for bond. We'll talk about her chances at getting it and what's tipping the scales.
But he is real, and he loves you. He really does love you. I gave him to God today.
You gave him to God today?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I threw him in the lake, and I gave him to God.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, an Amish mother has a bond hearing in Ohio this afternoon. Defendant Ruth Miller. She is having a hearing approximately 20 minutes from where she allegedly drowned her 4-year-old son. And she allegedly killed her husband, Marcus, by way of drowning as well. Now, Ruth Miller is also accused of 2 counts of domestic violence and 1 count of child endangerment because police say she also tried to drown her 3 teenage children while driving with them in a golf cart. We got some body camera video of her alleged confession to the drowning after she says she spoke with God. Let's listen.
I gave him to God today.
You gave him to God today?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I threw him in the lake, and I gave him to God. And people are going to tell me I am crazy, but he is real, and he loves you. He really does love you. He loves you. And I doubted him. I doubted him so many times, but I am to tell you he is coming soon. He is coming very soon. Prepare your hearts. The end is close. And I'm for sure supposed to tell you that he does love you.
Oh my. Now, Ruth Miller pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity at her arraignment 3 weeks ago. Her attorney told the court that she was suffering from a mental health episode. The attorney claims that Miller did not understand the consequences of her actions. So we're wondering, will her mental health episode be enough for her to get bond? That's what she wants. She wants to be out on bond. Let's bring in our guests. Rick Grundy and Mario Gallucci. Rick, to you first here. Your thoughts on this woman getting out?
I don't think that's going to happen, Julie. She's obviously a clear danger to the society, not to mention herself. So I don't see that as a potential. I'm hopeful that they will get into her personal situation enough to find a suitable way to incarcerate her or keep her in a lockdown facility and address the mental health issues that she's having. I'm questioning whether the investigation is ongoing with respect to her husband, because I think that may well lead to broadening the charges. But I think we probably just scratched the surface of what was going on here with this young lady.
Right, Rick. Mario, we heard defense counsel already seeming to lay the groundwork for what's ahead. Your thoughts on what he said to the court?
So, I've done these cases. It's an NGRI defense. First, you have to have her evaluated by a doctor to make sure that she actually has a mental disease or defect, which, to us who just watched what we watched, it's pretty obvious. But we're not doctors. So you have to have a doctor make an evaluation, find out if she does have a mental disease or defect, and then you have to argue to the jury that other than that mental disease or defect, she would never have committed this crime. And what people don't understand is if she wins on the not guilty by reason of insanity, it doesn't mean that she's now free to go out into society. It just means, like Rick just said, that she wouldn't be housed in a prison. She would be housed in a hospital where she would be treated and taken care of for probably the rest of her life. And this is the exact case where you would want an NGRI defense. I mean, she really believed that the end was near and Jesus was coming, and the officers at the scene were treated her wonderfully. They were outstanding the way they sat there and they listened to her, and they did everything they can to make her feel safe. They did an outstanding job. Outstanding.
Yeah, they really did. You're right, Mario. Thank you for that. Let's take a listen to Ruth Miller. Again, this is another portion of the body camera footage telling police what happened to her husband.
Ma'am, can you explain to me what happened? Who did you throw in the water?
I gave my son to God.
Your son?
Yes.
Where's your husband?
He went for a walk this morning.
And you haven't seen him
He
since?
didn't ever come back. And we went to the boat and his clothes were there. And God told me he's in the lake and a fish swallowed him. And you're actually supposed to go look for him in the bottom of the lake. And you will find the fish and you will find my husband.
I need to know where your husband's at.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
He's in a fish.
Yes.
There's no fish large enough on an atwood to swallow your husband.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
Oh, okay. Rick Grundy, it seems that the husband's death is a little more unclear than the son's. The 4-year-old child being allegedly thrown in the lake or being commanded to jump in the lake. Most people, I think, can see how the drowning happened. With the dad, it's a little bit unclear. We know he didn't get swallowed by a fish, as she's saying, but tell me, do you think prosecutors may have some difficulty with this? I've seen reports that she commanded him to jump in the lake, and then we know there was evidence she said he went for a walk, and then people have speculated, was he trying to save the son? Your thoughts on the husband's death, please, Rick.
I think what's going to be telltale here, and what we need to, I hope the authorities are clear in this mindset, is that the autopsy of finding the husband, and then an autopsy is what's going to tell the day with respect to, I mean, it's something as obvious as a bullet wound or head injuries or some kind of trauma that was inflicted on him prior to going into the lake, if in fact he's found there. And again, as this develops and this woman receives some treatment, etc., and the defense attorney may divulge further information if she in fact becomes more candid with respect to the situation with her husband. It may become part of a plea deal.
Yeah, very, very sad. Hopefully those teenage children who survived this event are getting the mental health help that they need, and counseling and family support now with dad being gone and mom being gone in jail for at least the meantime. Thank you both for the great discussion. Here's what's coming up next on Opening Statements.
But he is real, and he loves you. He really does, Rick. I gave him to God.
You gave him to God?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, that's okay. The next story we have coming up is one, if you haven't heard about yet, you're going to start hearing a lot about. Ellen Greenberg's death, a beautiful teacher in Philadelphia, stabbed in her own apartment. Her death initially ruled a homicide, then suddenly changed to a suicide, even though she had stab wounds to the back of her head and the back of her neck. There's a Hulu docuseries on it dropping today. There's also an upcoming hearing in October. We'll break down what we know about this very mysterious case next.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Welcome back. This morning, the spotlight is back on the suspicious death of Ellen Greenberg. The 27-year-old school teacher was found dead inside of her apartment, stabbed some 20 times. Yet the medical examiner ruled it a suicide after first saying it was a homicide, changed it to suicide. Well, now a new docuseries on Hulu being released today is bringing the case to a wider audience. It's called Death in Apartment 603. What happened to Ellen Greenberg? Let's watch some of the trailer.
So many errors happened in this case. You don't have investigation. You don't have a held crime scene.
That's not right. Does the evidence match the story that we're hearing? Pretty much all of that is negative. It is our responsibility to Ellen to find out the truth.
If you want to get away with a homicide, have it declared a suicide.
Death in Apartment 603. What happened to Ellen Greenberg? Only on Hulu.
Now, Ellen Greenberg's fiance, Sam Goldberg, is who reportedly discovered her back in 2011. The two of them shared an apartment. He said he had left her alone to go work out and claimed that he had to bust into the apartment, break the door down because he said it was locked from the inside. At first, he claimed that a building super had helped him get in, and then turned out that was untrue. There was no building super with him when he went in. And the medical examiner who changed the cause of death from homicide to suicide said that part of that was the reliance on the idea that she was the only one in the apartment at the time. Now, Ellen Greenberg's fiance, Sam Goldberg, has never been charged in connection to her death. So I want to be very clear. Mr. Goldberg has never been charged. He told 911 that she may have fallen on the knife. Yeah, told the 911 dispatcher that. Also said that she may have stabbed herself. But her wounds, there were 20 of them, 10 of them to the back of her head and the back of her neck and the top of her head. There was a 10-inch knife lodged in her chest. And there's also some information that 2 knives may have been used in this terrible event. Now, after the cause of death had been changed to suicide, her parents fought for a long time. They sued the city of Philadelphia. And then in February of this year, you may recall us here at Court TV reporting that the ME changed the ruling from suicide to now something other than suicide, which isn't one of the 5 manners of death: homicide, suicide, accident, undetermined, and natural. Other than suicide isn't one of them. So what does that even mean? And what's going to happen on October 14th when this case has been reopened? It's wide open now. And there's an upcoming hearing on the 14th of October to get the status of things. Let's bring in our legal eagles, Mario Gallucci and Rick Grundy. There's so much to talk about here. Rick, let me start with you. To me, this case stinks to high heaven, just absolutely stinks to high heaven. And this young lady also had bruises all over different parts of her body in various stages of healing at the time of her autopsy, suggesting that, perhaps she had been the victim of repeated beatings. Rick, I'm curious if you see perhaps signs of domestic violence going on here.
I'm sorry, Julie, I may have missed some of that. I was busy working on an application for an arrest of this gentleman in this case. This is a situation where one of the most troubling things about this is that it happened in 2011. And I, in my prior life as a head of a homicide unit, looked at cases from 30, 40 years ago, and this kind of thing was happening all the time, particularly in matters of domestic violence, where they were just, for whatever reason, it was obvious, it was in your face, and they were swept under the rug. So this is still occurring in 2011. You've got some investigators and you've got a medical examiner out there that they got some questions that they need to answer. Hopefully the medical examiner is no longer in the position, although what you just said sounds like somebody trying to cover themselves still, as opposed to letting the truth fully out that this was clearly a homicide. I mean, this is a bad joke. 20 stab wounds, suicide, okay? It stinks to the high heavens.
Bingo was his name. Yes, Rick Grundy. Mario Gallucci, let me throw another fact at you. Apparently, somebody, don't have a name, but hopefully we'll get a name, somebody ordered that scene to be professionally cleaned up, said it was okay, we're going to release the scene and let somebody come on in immediately before that scene was processed and the evidence was gathered. Your thoughts on that fact?
Why would they do that? I mean, this is, whether it's a suicide or a homicide, you still want to investigate a crime scene. You still want to see what's out there, if there's any DNA. And how do you stab, like you said in your opening statement, Julie, how do you stab yourself 20 times? Some of them to the back of your head, it was virtually impossible. Any officer that walked into that crime scene knows that would have been virtually impossible to happen. So you have to close that crime scene down. You have to start interviewing witnesses. I mean, did they recover any DNA from the night? I mean, did they recover any DNA from inside the house? The door was locked from the inside, but the only one reporting that was the fiance. The landlord said that door could lock by itself. So there's a lot going on here that was never investigated. I'd like to know why they did what they did in this case. Just like Rick said, I have a lot of questions on why this investigation went the way it went. It's very troubling, especially in 2011.
It is. It's a great word for it, Mario. Very troubling. This is the kind of case that, my gosh, anybody involved with it should be losing sleep over this because of the way this was clearly not handled properly. Another thing that I find very, very troubling is this gentleman's reaction to the 911 dispatcher. So his reaction is that she either accidentally fell on this knife or she stabbed herself. His words, not mine. He says, oh my God, she stabbed herself. She fell on a knife. I don't know. Her knife is sticking out. So this was sticking out of her heart, he says on the call. Now, if you find your loved one in a bloody mess with stab wounds to the front and the back of their body, is your inclination going to be, oh, they must have done this to themselves? Or they fell on it? I mean, she's got a wound to the top of her head. She fell on that knife? Rick Grundy, your thoughts on fiance's reaction?
So if, in fact, his story had any truth to it, he would be suspecting that this was a suicide based on some mental health issues that he would either did or would say he had knowledge of prior to. So the mechanism of the death would be secondary to the cause being the mental illness, and he doesn't go into any of that. So that's another red flag. And unfortunately, in my experience in these cases, I think if you, in this matter, peel away those top layers of the onion, you're going to see that this individual, based on who he is, who his family is, where he works, whom he works with, whatever the connection is going to have some undue sway in how this was investigated or not investigated. I also want to check to see if Lieutenant John Proctor has any powers in New York.
Mario, let me ask you something. Rick just said something about wondering about connections here. I'm so curious, and we just have a little bit of time here. When I see this, I just wonder, did this fiance have some juice? I have no idea. I didn't practice in Philadelphia County. I was across the state in Allegheny County. That's where I practiced. But I just have to wonder, you think there might have been some juice there?
So I actually tried a case in Philadelphia 100 years ago. There's got to be some connection. I don't understand how somebody is stabbed 20 times and there's no crime scene, and as the exact opposite. So yeah, absolutely a connection somewhere.
Exactly. Boy, I wish I could keep talking to you both. I love conversation with you two. Mario Gallucci, Rick Grundy, thank you both so much. You guys have cases to win. We got to let you get off to court. We'll see you soon. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.